Hello, Mr. Rangga. My name is Andika Putra Biasa, and I'll be doing the sixth video project. Part 1. This audio was about a story called The Gingerbread Man, and the audio was told by someone named Natasha. The story starts with an old woman making some gingerbread in the shape of a man. She puts the gingerbread in the oven to bake and tells a little boy to watch the gingerbread while she and her husband go out to work in the garden to dig some potatoes. When the little boy was watching the oven, he started to daydream. This distraction was an opportunity for the gingerbread man. With a loud noise, the gingerbread man got out of the oven and escaped from the house. The little boy failed to stop the gingerbread man because he was too slow to catch him. The little boy ran after the gingerbread man, crying out to his grandmother and grandfather, who heard the noise and joined the chase. But the gingerbread man was too quick and outran them all. After that, in the middle of the run, the gingerbread man met two men and they too tried to catch him, but they failed as the gingerbread man was too agile for them. The gingerbread man kept going and met a bear. The gingerbread man taunted the bear, saying that not even the bear could catch him. The bear took the bait and chased out after the gingerbread man. But again, the gingerbread man was too fast and the bear was nowhere to be seen. Next, the gingerbread man met a wolf and taunted the wolf to catch him. This was the same situation as the bear from before, but this time, rather than chasing, the wolf only jumped at the gingerbread man. The gingerbread man avoided the wolf's attack and ran as fast as he could. The wolf, upon seeing this, decided that this was hopeless and gave up. The gingerbread man kept running, despite there was nothing to be running from, but he met something on his way, a fox. The gingerbread man taunted the fox, saying, "I've outrun an old man, an old woman, a little boy, two well diggers, two ditch diggers, a bear and a wolf, and I can outrun you too." But the fox didn't start running. The fox didn't quite catch that and asked the gingerbread man to repeat what he said. This finally stopped the gingerbread man. The gingerbread man approached the fox and said the same thing as before. The fox still didn't understand what was said and requested the gingerbread man to come a little closer. The gingerbread man got closer to the fox and screamed the same thing as he said before. Suddenly, the fox took a bite of the gingerbread man and snapped the little things. Turns out this was a plan from the fox to outsmart the gingerbread man, and with that, the story ended. Part 2. This audio was about a story called Colin, the Grumpy King. The story starts with a wicked queen taking a walk by the pond in the palace garden. She meets a talking fish named Colin, and they have a long chat. Colin asked her about her well-being, and the wicked queen responded by saying that she was irritated with the careless little children, Barker the stupid palace dog, and she complained about the king. She said that the king wasn't royal enough, too nice of a person, and always showing mercy. Collins agreed with the wicked queen, and the wicked queen suggested Colin to be the next king to replace the current king. A fine fish like Colin accepted the wicked queen's suggestion, saying that he will fix everything, and with that the wicked queen took out her magic wand and started to mutter a magic spell. The sky went dark and a chill wind blew over the pond. Big waves buffeted the frogs and the tadpoles and sent the ducks and swans squawking onto the banks looking for shelter. The next thing Colin saw was him sitting on the throne, studded with the diamonds. The wicked queen had turned Collins into human, and Collins could not believe it. With a golden crown on his head, Colin realized that the wicked queen had replaced the mind of the king with Collins, and right now the real king was swimming around at the bottom of the pond. While still thinking about what was happening, a servant announced that the lovely Princess Beatrice was about to enter the chamber, leading a group of the smallest and sweetest little girls who lived in the palace. Collins knew about Beatrice and thought that she was a terrible person, but the lovely Princess Beatrice kissed Collins' hands and said how handsome he was. This changed Collins' image of Beatrice and thought that it was weird to smile because when he was a fish, all he could do was gulp. Collins then saw all the little girls who had come with Beatrice. After this, Collins realized that the Wicked Queen was sitting on the throne next to his. The Wicked Queen whispered to Collins that it will be nice to turn the little girls into tadpoles and send them to eat slime in the pond. Collins disagreed, and the Wicked Queen put her magic wand back into her handbag and told the little girls to be off from the chamber. The chamberlain appeared and asked the king or Collins what he wanted for lunch. Collins said that he wanted to eat likely fried flies for lunch and commanded the chef to never cook fish fingers ever again. The response from the king confused the chamberlain, but he went away with it. Later in the morning, the chancellor, who was in charge of all the gold and treasure in the kingdom, came to consult with the king. He was wondering what they should spend it on, but instead of the king, the lovely Princess Beatrice answered the counselor to use it to build a new hospital for the little ones who are poor. The Wicked Queen disagreed with the princess and was furious about it. She wanted to build a new palace, but Collins agreed with the princess' idea, and with that, the counselor decided to build a new hospital. This behavior from Collins as the fake king was praised. Both the counselor and the princess said that their king was extremely wise. After that, Collins as a king went outside with his golden carriage drawn by 6 white horses and was cheered by all the people who saw him. He thought how pleasant it was to be loved by many. Collins drove to the Prime Minister's house and told him that he wanted to make a new law, and that law was banning fishing. The Prime Minister complied with Collins, and then Collins heard the cheers of the people. But the cheering was not for him. The cheer was for the palace football team, said the Prime Minister. This slightly angered Collins and decided to ban football. Collins only wanted the people to cheer for him. Collins went back to the palace and he ate the flies that were served by his cook. The Wicked Queen was also there. She used her magic to turn her own flies into chocolate truffles. And then she mentioned to Collins that the people were quite unhappy about football being banned. Hearing this, Collins made a statement to the foreign minister. The statement was to start a short, glorious war with anyone smaller than Collins' kingdom. He thought that the war would cheer the people up. As they were eating lunch, an angry roar could be heard, and a sound of battering on the front door. It was the people. The people were angry with Collins' decision to ban football. Collins went to the balcony, trying to calm the people down. His attempt was successful, but then a kid mocked Collins, saying that Collins has a caught face. This angered Collins and responded to the kid by saying that he was a champion carp. The people laughed at Collins and he could not stand it. The Wicked Queen, who was listening to all this, could not hold any longer. She picked up a microphone and insulted the people, saying that they were all lazy and ungrateful. The people were turning very angry and they were climbing up to the balcony. Collins was frightened and rushed back inside. He pleaded with the Wicked Queens to help him solve this situation. But instead of helping, the Wicked Queen cast a spell at Collins, and Collins was turned back to his original form, a frog. That was the end of the story. And the last one, the part 3. This audio is about an interviewer between Mike and Professor Hilary Twine. Mike, as an interviewer or reporter, first opened the conversation by introducing Professor Hilary Twine, who worked at Yale University and participated in research on various SETI-related programs for NASA and private organizations. The professor responded to the introduction by Mike by thanking him and mentioning the meaning of SETI, which means Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Mike then asked the professor, does he believe in UFO? To which the professor answered that he kind of not sure of their existence. The professor then explained to Mike that SETI scientists like him do not necessarily believe that aliens are present on Earth. Rather, they believe that there is intelligent life outside of Earth. Hearing this, Mike asked the professor how to search for other beings outside of the Earth. The professor said that The professor said that searching for other beings outside of the Earth was the hardest part of his job as SETI researcher. He said that the process of finding other beings can take a long time. The professor said that the scientists that tried putting signals out there in space and sending props with message like music or even photos of the Earth. Mike thought that the attempts from the scientists could prove to be dangerous, but the professor disagreed and said that we will have to wait for a signal from the outside of the Earth. Mike asked the professor what was the thinking behind that mindset. The professor then explained to Mike that the scientists were looking for an advanced civilization, one that was capable of long-distance interstellar communication and possibly travels. They have been emanating radio and TV's wave into space for about 70 years, but so far they have found nothing. The professor then mentioned that it's quite worrying about the possibility of us as the lone planet with an advanced civilization. Mike asked that does the professor believe in us being alone, to which the professor answered with saying that he was unsure about it. Next, Mike asked about the silence of the space. The professor explained that we could be looking in the wrong place, like sending the message to the wrong path, or it could be that we may not have the technology to pick up the other being's response. Mike asked another question. Is it true that any advanced civilization may not be around anymore? The professor answered by saying that it could be true that out there in space there was extraterrestrial intelligence that destroyed themselves, just like us human. It was a distinct possibility that our current technology would not level their advancement. But despite that, the professor remained optimistic, saying that the universe is staggeringly large place and we as humans only scan our galaxy. There are still a lot of things we haven't explored, even with the limited technology humans have. The last thing Mike asked the professor was about the little green man, which the professor answered by saying some complicated things. After that, Mike thanked the professor for his time and ended the interview.